During the periods often portrayed as the golden ages of empires, there was actually an unspoken truth. Money was never truly safe. Not during the age of empires, not during revolutions, and not even during the calm years when people believed everything was fine. Even in times when people thought everything was going well, a hidden danger always existed. From the Persians to the Ottoman Empire, the great and wealthy empires all understood one thing differently. They knew that money was not merely a piece of metal. It was a form of authority and power. Money was a symbol of control. While some people used money simply to survive, nobles and the wealthy learned how to protect themselves from the system itself. If we ask how they became rich, we encounter different stories every time. But the real question is this: how did they remain wealthy even when everything collapsed? To answer that question, we must go far back into history. In ancient times, wealth was not defined by bank accounts. If you could access and control resources that others could not, then you were considered wealthy. Thousands of years ago in Mesopotamia, emperors and merchants were not storing servers and safes inside their homes. They spread their wealth across temples, lands, and trade networks. At the time, temples were not merely religious sites. They also functioned as the banks of the era. If a ruler seized the property of a temple, it was seen as an act of rebellion against the gods themselves. As a result, the wealth of nobles became almost untouchable. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt followed similar practices. Wealthy individuals kept their riches in grain storage, gold mines, and land. Even if currency lost value, land would always provide returns. When people struggled with hunger, owning land meant controlling food supplies, and that meant power. If we move further ahead in history, we encounter ancient Greece. Wealthy merchants there realized one crucial truth: depending on only one place was always dangerous. As a precaution, they spread their wealth across different city-states. They invested in ports and ships. If turmoil erupted in Athens, they could still maintain their strength elsewhere. This was one of the earliest forms of what we now call foreign investment. Of course, there was one civilization that mastered this strategy completely: the Romans. Roman nobles understood better than anyone how ruthless politics could be. One day you could see yourself as the most powerful person in society, and the next day you could lose everything. Because of this, they distributed their wealth across different regions: land acquisitions, trade, loans to foreign kingdoms. The more cautious among them even hid their gold and valuables in distant territories. In short, they diversified not only their investments, but also their risks. History also witnessed interesting turning points. As Rome began to weaken and collapse, nobles gradually withdrew their wealth from the state system. Instead of investing in the empire, they focused on their own security, private armies, and commercial networks. Rome may have fallen, but many noble families survived. They benefited from tying their fortunes, not to the empire itself, but to tangible assets. During the Middle Ages, the wealthy used churches almost like banks. Kings had the authority to seize the property of the rich, but touching church-owned assets was far more difficult. Some nobles took advantage of this and protected their wealth through churches and monasteries. It was during this era that powerful banking families such as the Medici began to emerge. Their key difference was this: instead of transporting wealth as physical gold, they learned to move it through deeds, records, and debt instruments. With this system, even if one city fell into a crisis, they could preserve their influence and wealth elsewhere. A similar situation existed in the Islamic world. Merchants in cities such as Cairo and Baghdad preferred using the hawala system. This allowed them to transfer wealth without physically moving money. Trust and reputation formed the foundation of this system, making it extremely difficult for governments to interfere. Even after modern states were established and strengthened, the wealthy continued playing the same game under different rules. In cities like London, Venice, and Amsterdam, major merchants financed wars by lending money to governments and supplying ships. Rather than staying outside the system, they became an essential part of it, even indispensable. As a result, states were forced to protect them instead of targeting them. Do you know what all these examples have in common? True wealth was built upon only two principles: influence and diversification. Influence meant having authority over enduring assets such as land, trade routes, and natural resources, things whose value survived the passage of time. Diversification meant never trapping all wealth within a single center. Human history is filled with the stories of people who believed systems were eternal and were proven wrong, because no system lasts forever. Even today, we are not living in a completely different world. We place our money in banks, yet money constantly loses value. Inflation can rapidly erode savings. Stock markets can collapse within a week. The nobles of the past understood this reality and took precautions. They diversified their capital and found different ways to protect their wealth. Perhaps this is the most important lesson history teaches us. Those who trust the system the most often suffer the greatest blows. Those who understand how the system works and adapt accordingly can emerge from even the greatest crises stronger than before. If this perspective has taught you something new, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. History is not merely about the past, it is also a mirror of the future.